welcome into Talkin Bengals. It's another exciting off-season edition. Tonight, we have a guest from the Who Dey All Dey podcast, Michal Bergs. Michael, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? Casey, Nick, thanks for having us.
It's a wonderful time to be in the Northern Kentucky, greater Cincinnati area. Lots of rain and not really May-type temperatures going on for us here. So what about where you're at?
Let's see. It was 88 degrees today in Amarillo, Texas. It was nice and cool coming across I-40 in New Mexico, and about 100 degrees in Arizona this morning. So nice. We're soaking up all those warm temperatures for you. Sorry, apologize.
Well, if you're overly hot, you can come jump in the pool I just opened at 66 degrees. So nobody wants to get in there.
Please tell me you haven't. I was going to say that's a cold tub.
Basically, I got to build a heater at some point in the next couple weeks, but that's Cincinnati area for you. May not get hot till July. You never know.
So true.
So, Nick, how are you doing?
Well, this global warming's really getting to me. I can't take it anymore.
All right, so we like to get right into the topics, and anytime we have a guest, especially since Zach's not here, for us to just throw him to the fire. Michael, we're going to put you in on this first topic. It's going to be looking at Joe Burrow from all angles. And I know you guys talked about it a little bit last week on your podcast. Quick plug there. If you haven't checked out Who Dey All Dey, you are missing out. Fantastic podcast. Love the format. They do a 4 downs there. Great. Keeps it moving, keeps it on track. But Michael, what are your thoughts looking at the initial workouts with Joe Burrow?
No, I appreciate you. I'm glad you guys are talking Joey B. I mean, let's be honest. The formula is pretty simple with this team. He's played 4 seasons. 2 he has finished. 2 he has not. And those 2 that he has not finished, we don't make the playoffs. And the 2 that he did finish, one was in a Super Bowl, one was in an AFC championship. And so I think what we want to see from these workouts, we want to see him move around. The last image we have is him on that same practice field, limping on the ankle. I know it's now the wrist, but want to see some of those deep throws, want to see him mixing, moving around. And so all the clips that I've seen, I don't know about you guys, but I know it's May. I feel like it's July. Let's go. Let's just get to training camp. I'm ready. So I'm pretty fired up, but I think that's the biggest thing is, hey, pumped to see him out there. Hope he eases into it. But it is absolutely, like he called it, Return of the Jedi. Did you see the look in his eyes? Even on some of those plays. I know there's like slow motion and we probably get a little too romantic with Joey B, but like, honestly, weren't you like, oh, this guy wants death for everyone in the NFL, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, he had the closer eyes, for a baseball analogy. Like he literally came in there like death staring, Trevor Hoffman style, like just taking people out.
Of that 100%. That's exactly the look that I saw. And honestly, that's what we need in Cincinnati. I think that will bleed over to the rookies, the new free agents that are in town, and anybody that's there to practice. They're going to look at our leader and go, man, if this guy's ready to go, I better be ready to go, because this team's built to win. I know we've had guys, we'll probably talk about this a little bit, but talk about trades and, T with his money. If you don't get on board with Joey B right now, you're going to miss out on some championship run. So I'm super excited.
Well, I'm going to come in with a little bit of a pessimistic take, and then I'll let Nick, be the other side of the Oreo here and be positive, because he's never negative unless it's really called for, or it comes to stats because he doesn't care about stats. That's just his thing.
Not the stats guy.
The injury. The thing that worries you about this is a quarterback having this to their throwing hand is not really documented before. And you look at athletes in other sports, it's not a common football injury. That's what I figured out about looking at this. Most football players don't get this type of wrist injury. It's more likely in baseball and tennis. Those are the most likely sports to get this kind of wrist injury, and it's a different dynamic. Throwing a baseball is a different mechanic than throwing a football. Using a tennis racket, I'm not a tennis expert, so I have to just take what Google told me, but it's a different dynamic in how you use your wrist. And there was a couple different doctors, and a couple of them are just the Twitter docs. So, take it as what you will. They got their doctorates from Google. But it's a difficult injury for mobility. That's your biggest concern, is do you still have that same mobility and flexibility within your wrist? And we're not going to know that until he's actually suited up, running away from insert which rival team we're playing soon, at the beginning of the year chasing him down. Probably Chris Jones because of schedule leaks in week 2. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, you're not going to know how well that mobility is, if he's got the flexibility back, until you see him in real time running for his life, trying to throw downhill. I'm hopeful, but practice fields are just that. They're a practice field. You can't tell anything for a practice field. You got to have all the pressure, all the pads, and get hit. I don't know if you probably remember this, Mike. I know Nick does. When Carson Palmer had his knee injury, the very first time he got hit, and I think it was a preseason game, they put him in there for like one snap, and he got hit, and everybody's just like, silence fills Paul Brown Stadium until he stands back up, and then it's roaring applause. It's going to be very similar. The first time Joe Burrow gets hit, everybody's going to just stop. And
it's an awesome comparison. That is sadly, I remember that feeling and thinking, uh-oh, Carson's dead again. And you're right. He got back up. You're right.
But the other thing that scares you about Carson is he was never quite the same again. So, I mean, at some point, which one of these injuries is – I mean, Joe has a different mentality. You're comparing apples to oranges. Carson Palmer had a lot of issues. He didn't really care to be in Cincinnati. Not a Midwest guy. Where Joe is. Joe's a Midwest guy. He's a pure AFC North quarterback. There's no other way to go about it. He is an AFC North quarterback, where Carson would have probably fared a lot better staying in California somewhere. All right, well, I've negatived this up enough. Go ahead, Nick. Give us the other side of the Oreo.
I mean, I was just waiting for you to let me talk. Anyways.
Never.
Normally it's me talking too much, but anyways. No, I mean, Joey B, like you were saying, he's a competitor. So, Casey, you and I know, are two of the most competitive people that I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, from my job to my personal life. I mean, heck, me and my wife, we always compete over everything. Like, we'll play basketball out in the driveway, and it's like it's blood, sweat, and tears. So
he hip check you into the garbage cans.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. We're both going at it. We're not losing. We're both very bad at losing. Joey B has that very same mentality. It doesn't matter if he's hurt. It doesn't matter if he's healthy. He's going to go out there and compete, which is something the Bengals haven't really had since Boomer. So, I mean, you're thinking about another great quarterback that Cincinnati is going to remember for as long as the NFL's around. Okay, it's Joey B. All right, I'm not holding my breath. He's going to go out there and perform. He's going to compete. I don't have to worry about it.
If you think about it, for him, one great season away from being the greatest quarterback in Bengals history. Like, there's no other way to debate it.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, that's sad for us Bengals fans. It is sad, but I mean, if you think about it, I love Kenny Anderson. We actually got a push we're going to be doing here in the next month or so, where we want the Anderson brothers basically to make it in. Then we want Ken and Willie in the Hall. But Ken's career was paralleled by a Terry Bradshaw, who was hard to continue to get past, and not because of Terry Bradshaw's a better quarterback, but because the Steelers had a fantastic defense at the time. And it's hurt my heart to even have to talk about the Steelers in any kind of positive light, but a fact is a fact. And Boomer, he did not have great teams around him for a lot of his time in Cincinnati. He had a lot of bust years where they just weren't a very good team that they put on the field around him. And then when I thought, why did you get rid of Boomer for David Klingler? Nobody will ever know. That's one of the strangest decisions. I mean, that's almost as bad as the Reds trading Frank Robinson for Milt Pappas. I mean, that's terrible. Those are terrible moves. And you can never explain those. Sorry, I'm not. We get off the tracks really quickly, Michael, just to warn you. So if we slide off on something you want to jump on, just feel free to jump on that train. We'll come back eventually.
It's your guys' show. I'm just a guest.
So we are going to jump into some of the rumors real quick before we get into our next scheduled topic. So the schedule release, they snuck it out. Somebody slipped it. But Bengals Chiefs week 2. I'm kind of shocked if that's legitimate, but all the sources are saying it is. Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
Selfishly, I wanted it to be the opener so we could pull the Detroit Lions and just pound them in their home opener. But I actually like, hopefully they'll take care of business for us to give them an AFC loss, Baltimore, and then we'll go in there and end their season. You mentioned Chris Jones earlier. I don't know if you guys like Cincy Light. probably one of my favorite adult sodas. I don't know if they're they need to be an official sponsor of your podcast. I would support that for Talkin Bengals. But I will bet you all a Cincy Light that Chris Jones does not touch Joey B in week 2.
I'll take that action. We don't do monetary bets, but we have all kinds of other fun stuff going on. So I'll take that.
But I love that. I think, and you've heard the rumors that we're probably playing New England on the opener at home. I know it's 1 week at a time. It's the NFL. Everybody gets paid. But if you can't beat rookie coaches, rookie quarterbacks at home, Joey B coming back from his injury, and then get ready for your, I'll say rival, but let's be honest, they're not really a rival when you're 3-1 against them. I think, we need to continue that trend and get to 4-1 against them.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, what do you got on that one?
Bring it on. I mean, we're going to Burrowhead. Let's do it.
Yes.
It's Burrowhead. It's not whatever they call it. I mean, seriously, Burrow he owns them at Burrowhead. I seriously can't remember the name of the stadium. It's Burrowhead. Burrowhead.
I'm not going to say it because if you spell the letters out, it sounds a little inappropriate. But we'll go Arrowhead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you think he does well in that environment, though? I know he loves to be at home, but I think he loves that environment, knowing everyone. I remember I had an opportunity to go to Kansas City. Sorry to Nick to interrupt your take, but I had the opportunity to be in Kansas City last September. I got off the plane, of course, wearing a Bengals hat. Everybody talks about the Midwest being so nice. There wasn't one person that would make eye contact with me because they know what that hat represents. And that's somebody coming in and stealing their girl, stealing all the good stuff, anything that's good in Kansas City, their barbecue. I don't know what else they got, but that's about it. That they do not want walking in their stadium week 2, healthy, confident after beating the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in the Kansas City area for a couple of years. It's basically barbecue, and that the Negro League Baseball Museum was awesome, and that's about it. That's the whole Kansas City area. You could see it in a day. And the World War I Museum. Sorry, now I'm digressing. There's 3 things. That's it. Anyways, Nick, go back to your take.
There's 4.
Wait a second.
There's 4. You can see Burrow beating the Chiefs again. So, I mean, it's just going to happen. I mean, Burrow owns the Chiefs. He's in Patrick Mahomes' head. He lives there rent-free. Travis Kelce always tries to overperform and winds up sucking anyway. I'm gonna go with Mike here as well. I don't think that he gets one touch on Burrow. I mean, especially when you're bringing in two 6'8" guys and then a 6'7" guy who they're all just massive human beings. I mean, this is the line for Joe Burrow. This is Joe Burrow's line. If Joe Burrow and the Bengals don't win a championship this year, it may not happen.
I mean, not to be the pessimistic take, but this is the best setup year I feel like they have of any of the years they've been there. And I mean, you also have bulletin board material from Chris Jones last year. He basically told Jamar Chase, better luck next time, try again, with a backup quarterback that almost beat them. It's not like the Chiefs beat the crap out of the Bengals last year. The Bengals could have won that game, should have probably won that game, and just made bad decisions down the stretch that cost them the game. And then, we probably wouldn't be looking at Kansas City with another Super Bowl win if the Bengals would have taken care of business last year.
That's a great point.
Really hard to take care of business when the refs they like to let the Chiefs hug when they're on offense. You can't do that. You just can't do that. When you're offensive lineman, you can't hug the defender to stop them from tackling your quarterback. It's called holding. It's a 10-yard penalty. Except for when you have a red uniform on and you play for the Chiefs.
To that made me thought. I remember last week you all mentioned Cedric Johnson from the defensive end / linebacker from Ole Miss. I think we've got a roster full of guys, Miles Murphy, that can really chase down and really get in back to what it was a couple years ago in the AFC Championship game where they really flustered Mahomes. Did either of you guys have the opportunity to watch that quarterback series on Netflix? Was that last summer? The Peyton Manning thing where they followed Mahomes?
saw a little bit of it. I know that his flexibility routine or whatever he does.
That was impressive. That was impressive. When I knew that Joey B owned this guy was after we beat him at home and they won't let the cameras in and all you can hear him is yelling the F-bomb like a little girl, screaming and just throwing stuff. That is somebody that's temper tantruming because he knows Joey, he might have the better quarterback traits, be more athletic, but Joey B's the better quarterback. He's in his head. He's built to beat him, and Mahomes knows that.
Just to keep going down this road a little bit further, the Mahomes and Brady, the biggest comparison I have for them, and even you can bring Manning in, and Nick's going to get mad because he loves Peyton Manning, and I'm not bad-mouthing him, but if you put Burrow in any of their divisions, there's no competition. If you look at Brady, he made the playoffs every year because his division was garbage. Mahomes makes the playoffs every year because his division is garbage. Manning made the playoffs every year because his division is garbage. Burrow is playing the toughest regular season schedule, and everybody's like, oh, you're an easy one this year. No, because you got 6 games against the AFC North. And even when the Browns are trash or the Steelers are trash or if the Ravens could ever be trash, they're still a tough team. They're not that bad. So, yeah, you're playing a gauntlet. He'll never have the luxury of having, okay, there's 5 to 6 wins every year in the division unless you just have to overcome that. So Mahomes, I don't think he's a good quarterback, great quarterback. But when you only have to win, 5 or 6 real games a year, including playoffs, and then, you have your easy games, you have your division games where Herbert's not real. Maybe he'll become a real quarterback at some point. I don't know. But the Broncos are a dumpster fire. Oakland's a dumpster fire. Sorry, Las Vegas is a dumpster fire. Wherever the Raiders live these days, I don't know. They're a dumpster fire. So, yeah, it makes it pretty easy to make it to the playoffs when you have 5 to 6 wins right there in your division.
What was that? Do you remember the year that the Bengals made the Super Bowl run and we were beating the heck out of Baltimore in Baltimore, and it got caught on a hot mic, Burrow talking to the wide receivers and saying, we win the division, we can win this whole thing. Because exactly your guys' take of how difficult the division is. And that'll prepare anybody.
AFC North is by far the hardest division in the NFL. I mean, you have the Bengals, you have the Steelers, you have the Ravens, and you have the Browns, right? I mean, 4 tough teams to play no matter how good or bad they are that year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't matter. The AFC North is hard-nosed football. You have to be able to run the ball efficiently, and you have to be able to pass the ball efficiently. And if you don't have both of those going for you in the same game, you're not going to win.
Well, the hilarious thing, we're just going to continue off this track and keep going down because that's how we do on this show. But CJ Stroud, I don't know if you guys heard what he said. He was on a show with, I think it was Micah Parsons was the other guy on there with him. And he was like, the NFC North's definitely the toughest division. And Parsons trying to be like, no, it's the NFC East. No, it's not. It's not.
Daniel Jones doesn't scare anybody.
He does not. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of respect to CJ Stroud for calling a spade too. Like, yeah, that's no joke. That's legitimate.
And he knows rookie year, to have that good of a rookie year and to have to face that division. Mm-hmm. I mean, that it says a lot about him, and it says a lot about what everybody thinks really about the division.
Yeah. So we're going to get back on script before we get back off script after this topic with a few more things that have popped up since I wrote this out. But we're going to look at the biggest position group concern post-draft. Nick, I'm throwing you in first.
Biggest position group. I think the biggest concern I would probably say is at running back because we don't know how it's going to work. Right? We got Zach Moss, Chase Brown. How is that going to balance out? Who's going to take the starting spot? What kind of running attack are we going to have? Is it going to be an AFC North running attack where we're actually going to be able to beat the other 3 teams in the division at least 1 out of 2 times? We have to have that efficient running game to balance out the passing game. If all they know is that we're going to pass the ball with Joe Burrow and our running game is just not there, well, they're not going to be able to pass the ball because they're just going to drop 7.
See, I actually listened to him last week. It was cracking me up on you guys talking about Chris Evans. I'm finally like another podcast talking about Chris Evans.
How is he on this team? I liked him. I liked him coming out of college, but we don't play him.
Well, we've had the joke we're going to put him on a milk carton and be like, "Have you seen Chris Evans?"
Seriously.
And then you probably didn't hear that one, but we are Travion Williams haters. I don't understand how they ever hand him the ball. I don't get it. Just don't know.
It's tough because he's a good dude. He's a good special team guy. I think that they were hoping. One of you mentioned last week about P. Ryan and how important he was to the offense a couple years ago, especially pass blocking. We love Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. He was the highest rated running back for pass block or to pick up against the pass rush. Absolutely love that they have that as a stat. So random, but that was like, look. So back to Nick's point, how do you round out that room? That's what we thought Jalen Wright, because you know what Zach Moss can do. We know what Chase Brown can do. Okay, so we got Jalen that's a weapon and can protect Burrow. I do worry about, though, I would love, if there was ever a year we were going to run the ball more, it was last year for obvious reasons, and we didn't. And Jake Browning still threw like 800 times a game. And so I just don't, sadly, I don't think this offense is ever going to run the ball at like we would like it to, like we were playing for Boone County. But
literally run left, run right.
But I agree with you. I would like to see one more veteran in that room to round out and to polish out that room, especially if Chris Evans is on a milk carton. That's amazing. Absolutely stealing that. That is fantastic.
All right, so throwing you right back out there, Michael. What position group are you concerned about?
Running back would definitely be on the list. I think it would either be one of the trenches, just because we were very fortunate last year in the offensive line. Pretty much nobody was hurt. It was pretty healthy for most of the year. And so I have a feeling we won't be as lucky this year. I know we brought in Mims. I really like Cody Ford as a backup, but I would like to see one more veteran offensive lineman body brought in on the offensive line. I mean, I guess I could say defensive line, interior defensive line as well, just because there's been so much change, and we love DJ Reader. He was so impressive against the run, and we were a completely different defense without him. So I'll stick with the offensive line, probably defensive line second, but I think that's more of like I want to see them put it all together, the defensive line, but I would like some more offensive line depth.
Definitely depth would be great. You need more depth line. That's unprecedented almost to go all the way throughout the season with the same starting guys. And it's definitely not going to happen twice. Like it just doesn't. So you got to have some people step up. And as you mentioned, defensive line as, your second biggest concern. Let's talk about Trey Hendrickson's news saying, I want to be in Cincinnati a long time. I want to bring a Super Bowl to Cincinnati and all that. And what it makes me think of, I don't fault Trey as a human being. It's not his fault. But I think players need to remember that agents work for them. They don't work for the agents. And, the agent doesn't live here. The agent doesn't have to deal with the fan base. The agent doesn't have to, get booed on the field if you really tick off the organization and the fans. So if that's how you honestly feel, but you want a multi-year deal, get your agent to say it in a better way. Because I know we were ticked off on this podcast. Like that doesn't seem like his character. And now that he's coming out saying this, you're like, yeah, he has a rogue agent who's just out there for the money and is putting things out into the world.
Sounds right to me.
Take your career to new heights with Constructive Curiosity. Whether it's career coaching, mental performance training, or business management consulting, Constructive Curiosity has the insight to get it right. Visit constructivecuriosity.com to get started today.
Even driving across from Arizona to Amarillo today, I was talking to Mom, and Mom was laughing back in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, talking about how Trey was there in practice, didn't say a word. Of course he's there. He's a professional. Oh, yeah. Look, I love the city of Cincinnati. There's not going to be a lot of people that are going to feel bad about a guy making $15 million a year for 4 years. I'm not going to say guaranteed money, but almost guaranteed. If you have a contract with the Bengals, how many times have the Bengals ever cut a player in that big of a contract to just eat the money? Has it ever yeah, I know we'd have to do some digging. So pretty much it's guaranteed money for Hendrickson. I get he had an awesome year last year. And so, yes, he should be, if you were to rank him in how defensive ends are paid, but you just negotiated for more money last year. You got to bet on yourself better.
Well, it's that aspect of it and the fact that, You remember Mr. Deeds, the Adam Sandler movie? You have the obnoxious quarterback bust in there. Like, you need to pay me more money. Well, okay, so next year, Trey, if you play like crap, should we take money from you? I mean, that's my whole argument. If you want that kind of, I played well, give me more money, then get an incentive-laden contract. And the better you play, the more money you're going to make.
And like you guys said with these agents, I mean, have they not met the Brown family? Like, how many times has this worked? We talked before the podcast. We were talking about Carson Palmer. We mentioned some, like, how many times have players gone in there and Mike Brown's just goes back to his gas station hat and his trench coat and falls back asleep like Weekend at Bernie's. Guys, we have a contract.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. Nick, you have any thoughts you want to add about Trey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he came out and finally said what he really thought and not letting his agent speak for him.
And Cincinnati is a very loving town. If you're to his sports teams, it'll make you, like, look at Chad. Chad will be a hero here forever. He's always welcome back. But, I mean, going back as far as you want to, any player you can name who didn't put a bad taste in people's mouth is welcome back at any point. And they love you and they'll, celebrate you. But if you tick us off, that's not a good look. And you will get booed when you're on the field. That has happened. I've seen that multiple times. So don't be that guy. We want to cheer for you. We want you to do well. So, yeah, just tell your agents to shh, and you handle your own business. All right.
Agreed.
Well, my position group here that I'm concerned about is probably the biggest boom or bust, in my opinion, and that's the defensive backfield. You have so much talent. It is just inundated with talent. And it seems on paper that this is going to be a great group. The problem is what it seems like on paper and what actually comes to life, not the same thing. So, I mean, I feel Cam Taylor-Britt should be a starter. I don't know if it's going to be DJ Turner or Dax Hill be the other starter. Mike Hilton's getting a little bit older. Geno Stone had a great year, but, a great year doesn't always translate to a great career. And then you had an older – oh, crap. Why does his name just drop out of my head now? Von Bell. Yeah, you have an older Von Bell, and you have a second-year guy in Jordan Battle. So there's a lot of talent there. This could be a fantastic position group for years to come, or they could just be the laughing stock of the league again this year, and everybody's just getting, 20-plus yard plays on them like it's going out of stop.
I mean, if it turns out to be like that this year, there is a trade deadline that we can use that, we can trade before the deadline and get players that actually perform.
Theoretically. When have they ever used the trade deadline?
We're just going to
theoretically.
Literally, if this is not an echo of my boys Brian and Brant on the Who Dey All Dey podcast, I mean, it's just, we've got the best deals worked out every trade deadline, and they come and they go. And so I agree, because one of you said it earlier about, look, this is, if you're not now, win. And this is a win now team. I'm pretty confident in the defensive backs. They were so, just as the opposite of the offensive line, they were so beat up last year. And we let Von Bell and Jesse Bates go. And so I think that they were hoping that some of these other guys would step up. It's tough to pay, what's his bucket, Jesse, $16 million when you're going to be looking at the face of 55 for Joe Burrow. Probably now, good heck, are we up to 40 for Chase probably? And what are we, 25 on the tag with T? You start looking around going, can't pay a safety that. They got burnt last year. Injuries didn't help. I'm excited for this group, but I agree. I think it's kind of like the interior defensive line. Like, it's there. Let's see what you got.
Could be good, could be horrible. We'll just have to wait and see on this one.
Yeah.
Hurry up and wait, Casey. We're used to that.
That's just about all we do. Hurry up and wait. That's our life motto at this point. So speaking of money, that's perfect segue into our next topic here. The rumors keep coming out of how much money Tee Higgins is going to make, and it goes up and down. But the $20 million a year was the last one I saw that I felt like it was pretty solid of a number. So for this team, does it make sense to even consider paying Tee Higgins $20 million? Nick, you look like you got a thought. Go ahead.
I'm going to say no.
Oh,
and
really?
Here's why. In my opinion, right? Opinions, that's it.
No stats.
No stats. You have to be able to perform on the field. Okay, I've seen T drop too many passes in big situations that would have been first downs that would have continued the drive. If you want wide receiver one money, you have to perform wide receiver one tasks. Wide receiver one tasks don't drop the ball on big plays. So if you want 20 million a year, earn it.
How many times does it's a great point, Nick, and how many times does Jamar mess up and then make up for it tenfold? And that's one of my favorite attributes of Jamar is he almost takes this personal, and he is that number one type receiver. I love T. T is an amazing talent. I'm a big Clemson fan. One of our best friends that we went to high school with went to Clemson, so spent a lot of time down there. But I love T, but he's not number one money. He's really good. He's not number one money. And if you look, we're going to tag him this year. We're going to tag him next year, and he's going to make $40 to $50 million guaranteed. Like no one in the city of Cincinnati is going to feel bad for him. When he's raising the Lombardi trophy, no one's still going to feel bad for him. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. There's a great clip out there of his mom leaving a voicemail for him the night or the morning of the Super Bowl. And she talks about how she always dreamt of her son being in the Super Bowl. She never said, I dreamt of you getting number one wide receiver money. And so I think it's time that T starts listening to mom a little bit, gets back to work, tells Mulgeta, his agent, you know what, look, every player that you pick up is not going to have the biggest contract in the NFL. I'm going to get 40 to 50 million bucks over the next 2 years. I'm going to ball out, and then I want you to find me some money after that.
I mean, I was wondering, I mean, of course, we're not in that range. None of us work that kind of career. We don't make that kind of money. But how much money is enough money? And we don't need to go off on that for too long, but I want to be a winner. If I was a professional athlete, I would rather be on a winning team and make good money than be on a really bad team and make great money. And I actually have a buddy of mine who's in finance, and he says you're going to make more money in the long run being on a better team than you are going to a bad team and making more money up front. Because, yeah, look at Travis Kelce. Let's say he, instead of going to the Chiefs, he ends up with the Cardinals.
He's not going to have all the Why you got to hate on Arizona?
It just is. I can't help it. If that's a true statement, you know it is. But yeah, if he goes there, is he going to have the success off the field that he has? I mean, of course, he's dating Nick's favorite singer, so you know that's all about that.
Nails on a chalkboard. Nails on a freaking chalkboard. Okay.
You'll get the Swifties after you. You'll get those Swifties after you. Well, careful,
we're getting him a Swifty T-shirt for his birthday, so
it'll be burnt in a fire with gasoline.
Amazing.
Now, see, what I need to do is just to get his daughter really into Taylor Swift. That's what I need to do, and just torture him that
sabotage the family.
Yeah. I know how to disable all technology in the house.
Now we know Nick's going to basically go back to the Stone Ages here.
Yep.
We talked about this. we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We mentioned that and said, and Casey, I love that take. And I get it. It's such a world of now. I want everything right now, instant gratification. I want everything right now. But Brian said it on our episode, I think 2 weeks ago, but he said, follow the championships and the money will come find you. And it's just like what you guys said. It's not only your contracts, but it's everything that'll follow that. Look at Chad Johnson. They never won any championships. You think that guy's ever going to be able to have to turn down so many requests in Cincinnati and other opportunities? That'll be the same for anybody else on these championship teams.
Exactly. Look at the endorsements. Just look at the endorsements alone. The advertisements that Travis Kelce's in. He doesn't need to make the money on the field. He doesn't need the Chiefs. He's making millions and millions of dollars just doing State Farm commercials with Patrick Mahomes. And that's just because Patrick Mahomes brought him in. And I'm going to be honest with you, every time I see one of those commercials, I turn the TV all the way off. And it really sucks when I have to find the channel again.
Is that because you're running to go get a State Farm insurance?
No, actually, I'm not. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to try to endorse insurance companies ever.
Fair enough.
Unless they pay us. We are open, State Farm. If you want to sponsor the podcast, we are open to it. We will put your name out there and badmouth every other insurance company if you want us to do so.
By we, Casey means him. And
Shameless.
no, but seriously, I mean, you look at all the endorsements, you look at the community, you look at the impact that you have. That's much more gratifying and much more. I can't think of the word. Fulfilling for the rest of your life, knowing the impact that you had not only on the field but also off the field and the community around you. I mean, because you think about all these rich people and all they have is their money. Well, they're single, they've been divorced 14 times, and they're paying alimony to all 14 of the ex-wives. But all they're doing is living in a big mansion with nobody else with them, right? They're empty. They have nothing left, right? I'd rather be broke and poor and have my family around me.
Saying Tee Higgins is going to get divorced 14 times.
I mean, if he wants to make $60 million, yeah, he'll have those. What did 50 Cent call him?
Oh, I don't know. I can't.
There are not those kind of ladies in Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky.
I mean, we could go full Chris Henry here, and I mean, of course, we've mentioned him many times. We love Chris. We feel bad with how everything ended up with him. But do you remember the Bud Light Presents with Chris Henry? Where you get arrested in your Cincinnati Bengals jersey and say it's not you.
Oh, Chris, go Laffy Taffy.
Oh, but speaking of commercials and endorsements, the universe played the worst joke on me ever. When I lived in Kansas City area, Mahomes is on every commercial. I'm not kidding. Literally, the grocery store, like furniture stores, pizza places. He's on every single commercial. And when we moved, I told my wife, like, at least we're not going to have to see this guy on TV everywhere anymore. And then he got like every national plug. And I'm like, well, great.
It's your fault. We have to watch
It's
that.
my fault. It's bad karma on Bengals fans. I'm sorry, Who Dey Nation. It's on me. This one's on me.
We are all blaming you, Casey. So just go ahead and just accept it.
I don't know. Do we have to burn like a Mahomes jersey or something? I feel like a bonfire for that. Somebody donate a Mahomes jersey.
Week 2 it ends. Week 2 it all comes to a crashing halt.
That's what we're going to do. So we have to have a bonfire that week, Nick, and we'll go out there and burn a Mahomes jersey. Or maybe just a shirt where we write Mahomes, because I'm not paying $100 to burn a Mahomes jersey. That's a terrible investment. So
just come on over, Casey. I got the fire pit. We're good.
So a topic we're all anticipating and are excited to get to. We love our Who Dey History segments. And we're going to get into it this week with the best wide receiver duos throughout Bengals history. And our guest gets to go first, and I'm wondering who he's got. Who you got, Michael?
There's a lot of wide receiver combos. I don't think the Bengals get enough credit. What in college, they'd call them wide receiver U. I think we've had some amazing combos. We've talked about Chad and TJ, of course. Our current combo right now. Even go back to Isaac Curtis, Chris Collinsworth. There's Eddie Brown, Tim McGee. Absolutely amazing. But I'm going to go with one little underrated, under the radar. We joked about this a little bit before we got started. But in 1992 and 1993, two gentlemen were wide receiver tandem by the name of Reggie Rembert and Jeff Query. It's because of these two gentlemen, they ushered Boomer out of town and ushered in the David Klingler era. And if you fast forward, because of the David Klingler era, then drafted number 1 overall, it was one of the worst seasons ever with Mike Shula, or David Shula, excuse me.
Okay.
And it ushered in the Big Daddy, Dan Wilkinson, number 1 all, another terrible bust of a pick.
That's cool.
And it entered in the 90s and the painful 2000s. Because of that pain, we have Katie and Elizabeth Blackburn, the daughter and granddaughter of Mike Brown. And had they not felt our pain, they may not be back to town and could have been pursuing other careers. And instead, because they remember how wonderful Reggie Rembert from West Virginia and Jeff Query, I know he played at Green Bay, but I forget where he went to college. But because I can't believe I know where Reggie Rembert went to college. But because of those two, it ushered in the leadership of Katie and Elizabeth Blackburn, who now we can thank. Game day experience is completely different. Look at all the sponsors that are a part of the community. Look at the money that's being spent on the team. I remember the days when we were kids, they were charging the players for extra t-shirts and towels. It was a pathetic era because Katie and Elizabeth saw that and suffered with Reggie Rembert and Jeff Query. We now today have Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins. Hopefully Jermaine Burton's really good. And the rest of the boys.
I like that.
Follow
That was
Mike.
a good one. That was a very good one.
I'm going to follow that up.
Circle. Yeah, Nick, I'm going to throw you right under the bus on that one.
I love your take on that. I like how you spun it around. You know, you took the negative of the early 90s to mid 90s and then to the late 90s and early 2000s to really come into the 2020s. I really like, how it really came full circle, a circle, not a square. And
Nick knows geometry.
Proud of you. It's that Boone County education.
That's right. Where we learn circles.
We math well.
Yeah. No. Anyways, stats. Woo. Anyways, back to something I'm better at. I like TJ Houshmandzadeh and Chad Johnson. I think that's the best wide receiver duo since Collinsworth, and I can't ever remember the guy who he was with.
Is it Curtis?
Curtis. Yeah, I know. Mike said it earlier, and I totally forgot. But I mean, TJ and Chad, they were just a great 1-2 punch. I think that Jamar Chase, maybe bringing in like Tee Higgins or even Jamar Burton. Is it Jermaine Burton? Jermaine, yeah. Burton, I think, is going to be a great receiver. He's got great quickness. He's got good hands. I hated watching him play against Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee Volunteer fan. When you said right, I was like, yes, sir, you are 100% correct. Great blocking running back. And
guess what? You just proved that advertising on podcasts works. Reach thousands of local listeners each week and grow your business. Reach out to Talkin Bengals today to find out more by emailing talkinbengals@gmail.com.
He's a really hard-nosed football player. I love him. Anyway, back to the wide receivers. TJ Houshmandzadeh, biggest clutch receiver on the team. And I would pick him out of all the wide receivers that the Bengals have ever had. If I had to throw a ball across the middle and someone to catch it and I knew they were going to catch it, I'd say, bring me Hush.
Not run anywhere after he catches it.
Matters.
Hey,
he's
going to
catch it.
Down.
He's going to catch it.
Did you see him at the draft? He looked good. I mean, that guy is not aging at all. He looked smooth. Suit looked great. Looked in great shape. Love that take.
Maybe bring him and Chad back because they both look like they could still play. Just put them on the field. No. I mean, nothing but love for Hush, the greatest 7th-round draft pick in franchise history, hands down. Like, there's not even a comparison. How he made it to the 7th round, nobody knows because he was definitely – he led the league in receptions one year. Just a fantastic talent. Chad, whether you want to call him Johnson, Ocho Cinco, whatever, he made the game fun. And for, a young Bengals fan, growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of people that made the game fun and made Cincinnati relevant. Chad was the guy that made Cincinnati relevant, put us on the stage, and everybody, you either loved him or hated him, but you were talking about him. You could not talk about Chad. So a quick honorable mention real quick before I get into my pick. A.J. Green, Marvin Jones, that was a great combination. It was fun to watch, but honestly, the personalities weren't there. A.J. was a very, quiet guy, kept to himself. Marvin Jones didn't have a huge personality. So very, soft-spoken, great talent. But the guys who made me a real big Bengals fan, and Nick already knows, we actually have a petition out right now trying to get Dan Horde and Dave Lapham to rename a play after this guy. One of the two is Carl Pickens and Darnay Scott.
One play Darnay, baby.
Yep. And then we have the petition right now is to call Pylon Fades the Pickens play because he ran that better than anybody. And I remember a game against Atlanta in 96. He basically just embarrassed them. 3 touchdowns, caught everything, made him look silly. And if he had a real quarterback for most of his career, he could have been a Hall of Famer easily. I mean,
you mean Jeff Blake wasn't a real quarterback?
For a season and a half. 95, he was good. Half of 96, he was good. and then he lost his job to an ancient boomer. And I love Boomer. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but Boomer at that point was like hobbling on the field to stay upright. And Jeff Blake was, 5'6"? Like, he's tiny. He can't even see over his line at all. Carl Pickens, Darnay Scott made the game fun, kept it interesting, and I wish they could have been on better teams.
I love those two. Probably two of my favorite growing up memories is the Dallas game with Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith. And first play, it's Jeff Blake's, I think, was it his first game? And just rears back and chucks one to Darnay Scott. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to play with the Dallas Cowboys today. And then I think it was Pickens when he scored against Pittsburgh and spiked it as the Steeler was on the ground, just spiked it right in his face. I don't know who the defensive back was, and just stared at him. And I'm like, see, this guy gets it. This guy, he's representing all of us.
That was the fake spike thing, right? That was the fake spike. They threw it deep, and he just stood over him.
O'Connell?
Yes, it was awesome. I was there. It was great. Beating the Steelers are probably some of my favorite childhood memories. The 96 game where they beat them and the kickoff return right at halftime was awesome. And I just love beating the Steelers. It's a great day.
I want to go off topic for a second because it brings up a great point. Taunting. Okay, Joe Burrow, big fan of it, right? He's like, I'm a man. I'm getting paid millions of dollars to play this game. Think I can handle a little taunting. It's okay. That's part of the game. I say, let them go, right? Quit being little wusses, and we'll be PG about it. And, let them play. Let them have a little fun and talk and, showboat a little bit. It makes the game more interesting. Taunting needs to be a part of the game. Quit throwing 15-yard penalties for that crap.
Well, my whole thing is take it like baseball players do. If you take it personally, just go punch the guy and then you can both get thrown out. Otherwise, just suck up. It's not that big of a deal. Because that's what you'd see in a baseball game. You just showed up the pitcher. He's going to throw at you. You're going to charge the mound. You're both getting ejected. Otherwise, don't worry about it. It does make it more fun.
I've got the Knicks Pacers playoff game on, and it's still one of my favorite memories when John Starks dunked. I'm not even a Knicks fan, but when he dunked over Pippen, I mean, seriously, like they should have just called the game right then. Like that is the type of stuff we remember in sports. Nick, I agree with you.
I mean, the fact that you can intercept the ball and now run to the other end zone and do a full-on practice celebration, what's the difference? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't get why anybody would be upset about it. Just let it happen. And like I said, if you really take it that personal, like if T.O.'s putting the ball at midfield and against Dallas on the star, the guy ran over and hit him. There you go. It became a big enough deal that somebody got physical. Yeah, feel free if you want to take it there, get physical with each other. Get thrown out, get suspended, whatever you want to do. As long as you're not a Bengals player, don't get suspended. But if every other team wants to get their best player suspended, I am all for it. 100%. So with this being off season, we got to jump into, not that we haven't had enough random conversations, but this one's really going off the reservation. We're talking 3 cheers, 3 jeers for best and worst sports movie. And once again, Mike, I'm going to throw you right back at it here. I'm going to give you, because that way you get the top choice.
I appreciate that. I will go sports-wise. It's a pretty easy one since I'm in West Texas this week. I've got a fun little roadie with Mom. Definitely inspired by the Amarillo Sod Poodles. But good old Friday Night Lights. Like, it's still just, it gets me every time. Just great stuff. So I'll give a cheer to Friday Night Lights. I'll give one that came to me was The Replacements. I don't think it gets enough love as a football movie. I actually thought it was a good movie. People always put it on the list of bad movies. I'm going to give it a cheer. A jeer? I'm sorry, guys. Rocky. It is boring as heck. The storyline I like, but minus him going up the stairs, try to stay awake after 8 o'clock watching that movie. You will, if you have a drink in your hand, you are out like a light. So I'm sorry. Sorry to do it to you, Sylvester, but I'm going to say Rocky.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I mean, it's a movie. If you watch it in bites, it would be much better than watching the entire movie.
Like that.
I know Nick looks like he's brooding over there.
Disagree with your Jeers wholeheartedly.
Sorry.
Disagree wholeheartedly. I'm gonna go kind of split the three cheers. Favorite baseball movie is The Sandlot. It's a classic. Yes, it doesn't get any better than that for baseball. Football, I'm going with Remember the Titans. Just the importance of teamwork, the importance of bringing everybody together, the importance of putting your, I don't know, just yourself last, and how do I help the team? Just how does that embody, how we should be as a country? It's just not only just on the football field, and I think it's an amazing story. Worst, I don't know, any of those rom-coms that have some form of sports involved with it. Anything with Drew Barrymore in it, really. What was that? Drew Barrymore? Yeah.
Fever pitch.
Podium Automotive is a proud sponsor of Talkin Bengals. In Greater Cincinnati, it's Podium Automotive for all your auto needs. Skilled technicians, quality service you can trust, and fair prices. Tell us Talkin Bengals sent you and get 5% off all services. Schedule your appointment today on Facebook at Podium Automotive or call 859-869-0097.
With Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore, awful. What a terrible movie.
Great. It was not great.
The only reason people like it is because everybody likes Fenway.
Yeah. I mean, I did watch the movie because I remembered, and of course all of us do, we're at that age, when the Sox came back and beat the Yankees, 3 games down. And I was a Red Sox fan because I hated the Yankees with a passion. So, I mean, the Reds were pretty much garbage during that time anyway, so you had to watch somebody. But yeah, I liked that, and we remember that. And of course, clock's going off. Just disregard that. But it's telling me it's my time to talk on this portion. So 3 cheers, 3 jeers. Let's see. Overall, it's my favorite movie of all time, period. It's Field of Dreams. That's my biggest cheer for a sports movie. It transcends baseball. It goes into life. And if you're a guy, you can't not tear up a little bit at Dad. You want to have a catch. That moment gets you every time. It's gonna bring tears to your eyes, and if it doesn't, you're not a human being, and you need to check yourself. Whether you like sports or not, that's an emotional scene right there. So that's my biggest cheer. Next, the Replacements would be my favorite football movie. I love the movie. Graves could have played quarterback for the Bengals for a while there because he's better than Achilles Smith and Scott Mitchell. Oh, God. I don't even want to go back to Gus Frerotte, all these other guys that are just bad.
Let's talk about the 2015 Bengals-Steelers game, Kate. We're going down that road.
Oh, no, we are not. We are not going back there ever again. It is blacklisted from this show. Never again. Not allowed. I'm trying to think of what's my worst. I've had all week to think about this, so I should have already had it ready. But there's very few bad sports movies, so I'm still thinking of another bad one. Another favorite cheer right now is Miracle. The Miracle on Ice story. Fantastic. I love the coaching. It's great. It gets into it, and I got to actually go to the arena before, so it's really awesome to see.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I got to go to Lake Placid and look around, and the museum's great. Fantastic story. America really needed it at the time, so that's great. Bad sports movie. I don't know if you guys remember, any movie that has a random actor and a bunch of kids is probably going to be bad. Martin Lawrence is a basketball coach for a bunch of middle schoolers. Not great. Will Ferrell kicking and screaming, not great. He's funny, but it's not great. The only good kids sports movies, Sandlot, Little Big League, Rookie of the Year, Mighty Ducks, Little Giants. But then they burned that out and made it all about the adults and not about the kids, really. And that kind of it's not great. It's not a great look.
The Sandlot remakes are terrible.
Yeah.
Why? Just leave Sandlot alone, okay? It's classic. Quit trying to remake good movies because you just don't do it.
You can't modernize certain things, and that's something you talk about with people like, well, you play ball like a girl. Yeah, there's a lot of girls who can play ball. I'm not going to lie. There's people who played baseball much better than I ever did. But that was the time. It's in the late 50s, early 60s. What do you expect? That's the time period. You can't be upset about a time period. That's how it really was. You can't go back and whitewash it. It doesn't work that way.
Or can you?
We're not getting into 1984. No, we're not doing
I
that.
was just saying I'm going to go fall asleep to a sports movie tonight now.
Well, it's an underrated sports movie, and Nick's definitely going to say I'm full of crap. But Summer Catch is not a terrible movie for the baseball aspect of it. And Ken Griffey Jr. is in it in a Reds uniform.
Right.
Summer Catch, is that the Freddie Prinze Jr.?
It's so bad, it's laughable at times. And
There's
there's
really
just
the Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah,
Reference
it's
to
hilarious
Freddie
on
Prinze.
some levels, though.
Get
It's
out
so
of here.
bad, it's good. It's one of those movies, like it's so bad, it's good, that you can laugh at it. And then you can see Ken Griffey Jr. hit a home run off it in Cincinnati at Old Synergy Field. How can he be upset about that?
I like the junior aspect, but I think a really good movie I think we didn't talk about was Major League. Right? I mean, you can't remake that movie because it's not politically correct at all.
Just say, yeah.
And first of all, second of all, it's a classic. You just can't remake a classic like that. It'd be like trying to remake Shawshank Redemption. You just can't do it. The storytelling in it was phenomenal.
I mean,
And it was hilarious.
sports movies, period, just aren't as good as they used to be. But I've missed like 80s and not early 90s baseball movies. Those were some of the best. They just really are. Bull Durham's another great one you got to throw in there that you can't remake. And the funny thing is, when you think about it, watching it, you realize they shot the whole
Looking
movie.
for a great book? Check out Once Left the Field of Valor. When Damien Shaw finds a blood-stained envelope after a battle, he is struck by a series of debilitating flashbacks that threaten to unhinge him. The letter leads him on a grueling journey of penance to present it to its intended recipient. This addicting page-turner is filled with action, suspense, romance, and perseverance. It will keep you on edge to the very end and leave you wanting more. Get your printed edition or ebook today on Amazon.
January, because nobody's wearing jackets in Durham, North Carolina in the summertime. No. Jackets, long sleeves, you'd be dead. You'd be dead. You wouldn't survive it.
Solid point.
But none of us caught that the first 20 times we watched the movie.
Caught up in the story.
Exactly. Great story. Church of Baseball, all that good stuff. Like it. Well, I think we have rambled for quite a while. Great material, but now we're just getting off into what we like to call Talking Bengals After Dark. So before we get to topics that we have to change our rating from PG to R,
Exactly.
we probably need to get into closing thoughts here. So, Nick, what are your closing thoughts?
Still thankful we're not talking about the draft anymore. Still thankful that there's some time for Joe Burrow to heal up and get back in the swing of things. I did miss mentioning he looks thick. Like his shoulders, holy blank words.
He's been working.
He even talked about how he's been working hard and building muscle mass. Good for him. I think he's coming out this year ready, Casey. I'm just excited to see it. We were talking earlier, why can't this be July already? Let's just get to it.
As long as Sports Illustrated stops posting pictures of him looking ridiculous mid-throwing motion. I mean, I was like, could you pick a worse picture? Like he's literally mid-throw. Looks like Will Ferrell doesn't know what to do with his hand, trying to throw the ball. It's like, hey, he's in the middle of his throw motion. Leave him alone, guys. Leave him alone.
Let him hate.
All right, Michael, go ahead and give us your plugs for Who Dey All Day and your final thoughts.
Gosh, appreciate you both having us on. I mean, this is why we do Who Dey All Day podcast, Who Dey _all_day _podcast. Give us a follow, give us a listen, but this is why we do it. I mean, look, I haven't even met either one of you until tonight and via the emails, and immediately It goes right back to Northern Kentucky, where we grew up, our roots. I'm telling you, we will get a Super Bowl. We will absolutely win one. I remember being at the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and when T scored after the second half, after Dre and Snoop and Eminem and 50 Cent, I mean, that place was electric. And I remember screaming to my brother, I told you. And he thought I was talking about, hey, we're going to score, and then we're going to take over this game. No, I was telling him, I told you one day we will get a championship. And so I really believe that. And I just want to thank both of you for allowing us to come on and to represent Who Dey All Dey podcast, Talkin Bengals. You guys are great. And just appreciate the love and the loyalty. Super already excited to catch you guys at a game. And I'm sure we'll continue on the Bengals romance until we get this thing done.
Heck yeah, it's been fun. Got to have you guys back on. Got to get the whole crew all together one week. I mean, that's going to be a ridiculous, 7 hosts, but we'll do it. Maybe we'll get a live episode next time.
That's what I was going to say. We need to do a live one. Do a Facebook Live or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we can find a local place around here too that'll probably let us go and invade and get the show on for a while.
Hilarious. Yeah, there's just a lot of fun energy. It's all the stuff we wanted as kids that we joked about the 90s and the 2000s made us. It made us hard. It made us that's why we hate the Steelers. That's why we can't stand Kansas City now, because they are in the way of what we are trying to accomplish. And we know we're going to get one. And so you talked about, you didn't like Carson Palmer because he was SoCal soft. We're Northern Kentucky tough. People don't give any credit to the city of Cincinnati, but it's got a chip on its shoulder. They're good people. Everybody's so welcoming, loving. Whenever I run into somebody that's a Bengals fan throughout the country, it is my absolute favorite. They're your instant best friend because they know you remember the 90s and the 2000s. And now Joe Burrow, and we get a chance to lay heck onto the entire NFL, and we love it.
Couldn't say it any better myself. So with Zach skipping out because he has a job that he has to do.
Good way to be responsible.
Yeah, way to actually care about things like making money for your family, Zach. Letting us down. Now, if we don't rip on Zach at least twice an episode, he finds us. So we got to make sure we slip that in somewhere.
Normally he's late, so it's almost like he's almost. He may just not show up until we're almost done. So it is what it is.
Could log on right now. We don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. Plugging all the socials here. So check us out on YouTube and Facebook at Talkin Bengals, on Instagram at Talking_Bengals. We do have our awesome actual website up and running right now, talkinbengals.com. Check it out. We got some different partnerships that we're starting to work on right now. And like we mentioned a little bit earlier, we still have the petition out there. We want Dan Horde and Dave Lapham to honor Carl Pickens. For those of us who remember him, yes, he left in a grumpy manner. We all would have at that time because the team was terrible. But yeah, pylon fades, bring a new tradition. A lot of baseball stadiums have stuff like that. Bring it to Cincinnati. Pylon fades are the Pickens play. Put it out there. Speak it into existence everywhere you can. And Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. And Who Dey?
Who Dey, gentlemen.
Thank you for listening to Talkin Bengals. Be sure to like and subscribe to Talkin Bengals on Facebook and Instagram at Talkin Bengals. You can also listen to Talkin Bengals on your preferred podcast provider. See you next time. Who Dey?